All right, so in this example, we're going to look at renders. We're going to look at two specific rendering types. So first, we're going to look at unique values, and then one for classified continuous variable. Note there are different types of renders for different use cases. Hopefully this will be helpful, and you can use the API documentation if you need to use some other type of symbology. Also, a lot of layers, if they're, say, published to ArcGIS Online or provided as a service, will already have some default symbology that is available and used by default. However, you may decide you want to use different symbologies, and that's where this can come into use. Okay, so this first example is for unique values render. So this is the result. So I'm basically trying to categorize each county based on whether the Republican or Democratic candidate won in the 2008 presidential race. Okay, so this is a multi-step process. So again, you need to call in your modules. So I have map, map view, and feature layer, and then list them out there in the same order. The next step is we need to define our symbols that we want to use. So in this case, I have two categories, so I'm going to define two symbols. So I'm creating a symbol for the Republican and then for the Democrat categories. So the type is simple fill. It's autocast to, actually, let me close this. So it's autocast to simple fill symbol. This is the color, so this is a hex code for red. So it's a solid type. And then this dictionary here is defining the outline. So it's a width of 2, and then the color is black, so 0, 0, 0, and then this is 50% transparency. And then for Democrat, it's the exact same. The only difference is I'm just swapping out the color. So now it's blue as opposed to red. So that defines the two symbols. Next, you want to create a render. So that's what this is doing. So this so I'm creating a render called vote rend. It's a unique value type. This is the title that'll pop up in the legend if a legend is drawn. This sets the default symbol, so if it's not specified, it's going to use the Republican symbol. In this case, that won't get used at all because they're all either Republican or Democrat. And again, if there was some other non-labeled ones or other categories that aren't defined, it would get labeled as other. This is the field we're using, so the field name is winner08. And then under unique values infos, we specify the symbology we want to apply. So if the value is Democrat, then we use the dim variable, the symbology defined in the dim variable, and this is the title that'll show up in the legend. Note here that this has to match what is actually specified in the table, so it's actually lowercase in the table. And then same thing for Republican, but switch in the symbology. And then to actually use that symbology, when you call in your layer, you can use this render option and then set it to the renderer. And then obviously here we're adding it to the map. So you just for the heck of it, if we did something like, I'm just going to change one of the symbols up here. We'll just change this to white. It should update for us. There we go. All right, so that's a unique types render. Let's look at a different type of render now. We're going to look at classified values. So let's close this. We'll kill our save there, or our view, and then open it back up. Okay, so this is new. This is showing the median income. So the process, even though this is a different type of symbology, the process is actually pretty similar. So we're defining a color to use for each of our different breaks. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 breaks there. Pretty much these are all the same. I'm just swapping out the color. Okay, and then again, I defined a renderer now, so I'm just calling it renderer. The type now is class breaks as opposed to the unique values. And then we're using the median income field. This is what will show up as the title in the legend if a legend is generated. And then we're setting the default here as basically black. But again, none of them will get assigned to that because they all fall within one of these ranges. And then the default label will be no data. But again, that's not actually going to get used because they all have something applied. And then inside this class breaks infos argument, we basically give it an array of dictionaries that define the symbology. So if it's between these two values, it gets this symbology. That's what will show up in the legend. Same thing. All right. And then whenever you want to use it, you just read in the layer. Again, this is the same layer we used in the last example. I'm just defining a different renderer now to get this symbology. Okay, again, there's other types of renders. So if you have other use cases, you just want to consult the documentation and see how you would apply that type of renderer.